This meeting will come to order. Welcome to the April 19th work session of the Rutherford County School Board. Looks like everybody has survived tax day. It has come and gone, and we're happy to be together. Leading pledge tonight will be board member Mr. Jim Estes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Estes.
You're welcome.
And we'll do a moment of silence Thursday night. Okay. Questions regarding the agenda? Okay. Questions regarding the consent agenda?
Ms. Snell is back there. The Title 10 McKinney-Vento is the subgrant application that we approved that we have to turn in. How many homeless students we have now?
1,212. And last year, 1137. I'm repeating you since you don't have a microphone in front of you for the general public. Goodness. May have visitors tomorrow night. We'll see. Of course, number 7 will be our recognition and presentation with State Farm, and we'll have representatives from State Farm. Roy Walden Elementary School Drama Group, pardon me, that ought to be entertaining. Looking forward to that.
Great.
Mr. Holliday, I think you've seen them perform, is that correct?
I have, but this is in anticipation of their performances this coming weekend. So we're going to get a little preview of what the community is welcome to take a look at in the coming weeks.
Okay. Number 9, Mr. Odom.
Number 9 is under transportation. The Transportation Department has proposed to add an active GPS system to the buses which are under contract with Rutherford County Board of Education for the school year 2016-2017. The GPS system will work in tandem with our Edulog routing software, allowing us to know where all our buses are located as they pick up and deliver students of Rutherford County. In order to be compliant with Article 17 of the Bus Transportation Services Contract, the following addendum is proposed. Section 15.5 will be added in state. Active GPS may be required. The board reserves the right to require the contractor, including special education bus contractors, to install an active GPS system on buses used under the contract at the expense of the board. Recommend approval. The motion is to add Section 15.5 to Rutherford County School Board of Education Bus Transportation Services Contract, which states, active GPS may be required. The board reserves the right to require the contractor, including special education bus contractors, to install an active GPS system on buses used under this contract at the expense of the board.
I remember when we installed the cameras, we inquired about an active GPS at that time, but technology must have come a little ways.
I think it's passive now, isn't it? It tracks it in some way now.
Yeah.
The current camera system has a passive GPS, and once you pull the hard drive off of out of the computer or the camera system, you're able to look and see where the bus has been. This system will tell you where it's at a particular point in time as you're looking at a screen as it's riding down the road. That's the purpose of the active GPS.
Right, but I think Chairman Hodge and I, we talked quite a bit about an active GPS back at that time, but I'm not sure it was either affordable or was available for our needs at that time.
It's not through the camera system.
So this is
Right.
completely separate.
Sure.
I guess we couldn't even buy it through the camera system at that time, or maybe affordable.
I'm not aware of it being available on the Angel Track system now.
Holiday?
Is this GPS system, as we update buses, is it modular enough that we're going to be able to transfer it to new equipment, or will we get new equipment that is equipped with this active GPS?
We will install it and maintain it with our own people that we do the same thing with on the camera system. So we will install it, and as we need to, as a bus goes out of service, we'll take it off that bus and put it on another one.
I'll share with other board members that I did get a call from one of our bus contractors this week and discussed this a little bit. There's minor concern among the bus drivers that I believe this technology will allow us to be able to monitor them in many different ways. We can, in one respect, we can, from this, identify their speed as they go down the road.
Yes, I assume that. We can do that now with the camera system.
Right, but this is going to give us real-time,
Yes.
feedback on things of that nature. And, so drivers, we're saying, we understand, we certainly want to be following the laws and those kind of things, but it does give an immediacy of accountability. And so drivers said, take note of that. They were also curious about whether or not there is a budgeted increase in their pay as more of their information is available to the system and they are in more compliance. There are more things that could result in a bus being out of service or something need maintenance, and of course they have to facilitate that maintenance and things of that nature. They were curious about that. My response was along the lines of, I believe there is an increase in the budget. I didn't have my notes with me at the time, but as we approach Thursday, we may see some bus drivers here with us, and so I would hope that as a system we're ready to respond to any questions that we might get on Thursday. I was positive with the bus driver that I spoke with, and indicated, like I say, that there is right now a small increase. Yeah, in the budget. So just some feedback.
Well, and this is a positive initiative by the board.
Right.
Anything that makes our students safer, and our drivers, owners also, it's just a really good initiative on our part and the right expenditure. Mr. Snell.
It's my intent is, based upon the actions of the board, is then to, if it's approved, is to put together a memo with regards to the reasons, the advantages of having the system. Their checks are available on the 26th of April. They'll have that copy and then invite them to ask any questions they may have. Call me. I've had a couple of phone calls today myself with regards to that, trying to explain to them what the purpose of it is and so forth and so on. And then by the 26th of May, or the 25th of May, that's the last paycheck they have. Then at that point in time, we will have available then the addendum for them to sign, but that gives them a month's time to ask any questions they may have with regards to that.
Thank you, Mr. Snell. Number 10.
Number 10 is a student discipline appeal. The board has been requested to review the March 24, 2016 decision of the Disciplinary Hearing Authority to uphold the remandment of a student from Laverne Middle School to Smyrna West Alternative School. The student was remanded to the alternative school for willful and persistent violation of school rules and disrespect to a teacher. This review is pursuant to the provisions of Policy 6.317. The policy states that the board shall review the record and shall, 1, affirm the decision of the DHA, or overturn the decision of the DHA, or modify the decision of the DHA to a lesser penalty, except in cases of zero tolerance violations. Or 4, grant a second hearing, which would be before the board, or deny a request for a board hearing.
Board members, you have a packet at your seat with information. We'll take that up Thursday evening. They have access to Ms. McLeod, I guess, if they have questions. Number 11, insurance update. There's meeting next Thursday, the 28th. Okay? And moving right through this agenda tonight, aren't we? Chairman Hodge, number 12, anything with the legislature?
I don't have anything. I went online last night seeing what I could find, and it looks like everything's winding down. I don't know if they wind down this week or not, but.
I think they're projecting tomorrow.
I think today was the last day I saw anything on committees or anything being brought up. So,
Anything, Toss?
No, I mean, they're saying that the committees over there are saying at some point in the future, they'll do us a whole reference again. Of course, you get that in the legal summer conference too, but they didn't put out anything specific because they were, most things were.
I would think after passing the budget that it would be difficult to pass anything that had a physical note attached to it, because the budget's already been
They
passed.
reference it, it's behind the budget, what they call it, which means you don't have a very good chance of getting anything passed if your bill is behind the budget.
It's been a long season. Mr. Snell?
So last week, I went to a meeting with pupil transportation people, and they brought up some things that were in the discussions this year. I thought I might bring them up. And it talks about buses, about special ed buses, talks about the seat belt. So if I don't mind, I'll just bring them up. There is a bill that probably is going to pass requiring the LEA to submit electronically the names of school bus drivers authorized by the school district. These names will be entered into the electronic school bus inspection program, and it's supposedly moving. What that will do is it will allow the pupil transportation department to flag any driver whose license becomes suspended immediately, versus right now, they get a notice and then they send that notice to us, and that's how it's flagged. But this will allow us, they will contact us immediately saying that a bus driver's license has been suspended for whatever reason, such as the DOT card is expired, or DUI, or whatever that may be. Seat belts in school buses was taken off notice. And this is behind the budget, the removal of the S endorsement upon conviction of a use of electronic device. The S endorsement is the thing that stands for school bus, that all school bus drivers must have. When you get your CDL, you get a P for passenger and you get an S for school bus. And so this proposed bill would be the fact that if you were convicted of talking on your cell phone, texting, then you would lose your license and you would lose your S endorsement forever. You would never be able to get an S endorsement again. That's behind budget. Private-owned school buses to utilize passenger vehicle tag instead of the commercial bus tag. That's behind budget. It used to be that you could use a private vehicle tag, And then that changed to where you must get a commercial, and there is a pretty big expense for having a commercial bus tag. And the life of a special ed bus has been extended to 15 years, just like the transit bus was extended for 15 years. And that's supposedly passing too.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Conversation that I had with the bus driver, they highlighted that tag fee and the expense of that additional commercial tag as some of the justifications. So good to know that. Thank you, Mr. Stowe.
We can only hope that what's on the clerk's table stays on the clerk's table. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 13, Mr. Holliday.
The only thing I would raise here in our work session is that I can't exactly recall if it was last week or the week before, but there was a rather heated exchange between the newly confirmed Secretary of Education and our Senator Lamar Alexander, who's chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee there in the Senate. And what Chairman Alexander is trying to do is trying to enforce the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act that has been passed by Congress and signed into law by the President. The Department of Education is having a hard time getting out of their old ways of asserting their intent and will on departments of education across the country, state departments of education. And this has to do with Title I funds as well as just general statements that we would call, again, these dear colleague letters that the agencies send out from their positions. Senator Alexander was animated and emphatic about the intent of the legislation and his expectation of the Secretary of Education to adhere to that. Mr. Odom, I think you may have shared some of the articles with me. I know we've emailed back and forth a time or two, and it's interesting to watch as the senator tries hard to get the Department of Education to do what they're supposed to be doing and what Congress has legislated them to do.
They're in the process of writing rules for, they're calling SML, ESSA. Part of the exchanges are tied to proposals and things, rules, and you see it every once in a while. They'll come out with some, but most of that hadn't been codified or anything like that. That it's actually a rule. They're still in the discussion stage of my.
Right, but in the absence of those rules, as they're trying to develop them, Senator Alexander is making the point that the actions that they're currently taking are in violation of what is the new law.
Old habits die hard.
Indeed.
I'm sure they prefer not to give up the authority they've had in the past. Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Anybody? Mr. Holliday. General discussion by board members. Mr. Odom, did you have something?
A couple of things. I think you asked something for our talk about budget meeting tomorrow night. Under the private act that we're under, we do have to submit something to the county commission by Friday. So as we do our budget tomorrow night, anything we're gonna add, or you might consider that you want placed in it, would be good to get that in the amount that we submit by Friday. 'Cause it's kind of hard to go up after you submit that sum, The sad side is we still don't have the revenue. And Jeff and I have talked about it. We're not sure why this year that we're not getting the revenue side. I mean, what we heard Senator Ketron say, that possibly $13 million from the state. I know Lisa Nolan's working on what are some projections for local sales tax, that sort of thing's all going, but getting kind of far along not to have the revenue side a little bit more firm. So tomorrow night, unless something happens tomorrow where we can give it to you, we're still kind of working from the expenditure side.
Is it reasonable for us to submit in what we would present on Friday, the basis for revenue? You know, this quote made at this time by Senator Ketron, you know, indicated to us therefore, because out of context, I don't want our budget to seem like it is without basis. You know, as much as, you know, we have understood these revenue indications and that they have helped us to craft our requests, I would hope, you know, they might not be listening for those as closely as we are because they're tied to education.
We submit the line item copy like you received, basically. They look at it in that form. And of course, we've got several follow-up meetings with them. You've got one joint meeting in May, that sort of thing. We've got some additional meetings too. I did quote for the paper that basically if his 13 million is correct with 326, you're looking at about 339 or something to look like that, which is pretty well close to our budget that we right now have proposed. So I've kind of said that much, but you're always cautious about saying too much when you don't know what the state necessarily will do.
Sure.
The other, one other thing, I guess, so anyway, tomorrow night, let's try to get most of the things that we might see that won't include, barring some surprise that comes along, to get it included in our budget, or if we want to, we'll have some time maybe to move some things around. You know, we talked a little bit today about some of the capital funding we had to put off. Was it the roofing project at Blackman Elementary this last year and some things like that? So there's some things that where we could certainly use some funds that we'll need down the road to make some decisions on. Can we do any shifting or anything on that? I did have today, I received from a principal a copy of the individualized education account. You have a copy of that. I mentioned, I think, at our last meeting or something, the state was sending out letters to parents. This apparently is one of those letters that certain special education people could qualify for the individualized education account. And the first time I had seen the letter, I didn't see it until today, but it's going to some parents under certain criteria that you can see, but you can read it as well. I think it looks like the state's planning meetings in June. But this is the voucher program for special ed that was passed last year ago. That's apparently the document.
Once again, with the individual education account program, we had one of our Rutherford County central office staff that was instrumental in putting this, the rules in place. Isn't that right, Mr. Odom?
We've had several people served on the committee. I'm not sure exactly who you're talking about right now, but
It was a gentleman that works for Miss Bell that introduced
Chip.
himself.
was Chip was in
Yeah.
Fair was involved in
Yeah.
that. He at one time worked for the state, was in compliance.
Yeah. He was sharing with me that he had helped trying to craft this.
You know, what's really, really interesting here is I hope parents read this carefully. Parents should fully understand and to participate, they're waiving all of their child's right to receive services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and are receiving the public school district from all obligations to educate the student. So when a parent opts for this, well, you cut loose. So they'll need to think about it very, very carefully, I think, because that's the federal act. I mean, you're opting out of the things, the federal monies and all that we receive to serve that child.
So if they take,
I'm just reading what it says. I haven't seen
do we know if they utilize this and they get into it halfway through the school year and they decide that, wait a minute, this is not what we thought it was going to be?
They may, the school system.
What happens to the funds that were,
They will ask them for certain information, and they will pay them, throughout the year, so that if they turn around and come back into the school system, then they will stop, and they will only pay them up to that amount, to that time period.
My concern kind of is, somebody says, okay, I'm gonna do this, and they sign off on it, and they don't really realize it, so they come and enroll them in our school system, and we have them 2 months. We don't know they've signed up with the state. If the state doesn't provide us with a list, and we turn in ADM requests for funding, and the state says, oh, no, you can't have funding. These people, we're paying them through this other individualized account. So I hope the state chooses to share with us who's on it, so we'll know. But I just see some real potential here, let me put it that way. Before or after?
Mr. Savick,
Next week, Kim Williams and I will be at the Spring Fiscal Conference, and one of the sessions should be on the administrative nuts and bolts of this program.
good.
We'll be able to look forward to a full report.
Thank you, Mr. Odom. Anybody else have anything this evening? We'll be back together for tonight at 5 o'clock for a special call budget, which just reference to, and then board meeting Thursday night.
Parents, if they had a junior today, they should have taken the ACT test at state expense at our high schools today. And talked to a couple of principals or so, seemed to be going well, students were taking the test. Well, the real change, there's a bill that's on the governor's desk too that has made taking the AC test a requirement for graduation. It doesn't say you have to make a particular score, but it says you must take the test. So that'll be interesting too.
Started the freshman and the sophomore practice team.
Some schools do that to get.
Oh, it wasn't all of them? I know we were doing it in Oakland.
Many of the schools do that because, and honestly, what happens is you wind up suspending so much of your school schedule and stuff too. So the practice test gives them feedback on what a student may need to know to score higher on the ACT, so they kind of use this wisely to do that. But the software we have in our budget, the SNOOP, is also another one, so most will probably, after that goes through, be using that, and that is prescriptive to what a student needs to do to get a 25 or a 22, or they actually target what score they'd like to receive, and then SMOOP will give them a prescriptive report on what they need to do. Retain that. And the state, I think, is going to offer, everything we're hearing, that again, and I think this is in the budget, not behind the budget, because they're not giving Explore and Plan as they had before, they're going to offer opportunities for students to retake the test and raise their score at state expense. They're in negotiation with ACT for some retakes maybe this fall. They did not know in this negotiation process, will it be at one site? Will schools be doing that retake again in the school site? Those details had not been worked out with ACT. So kids going to get, looks like, multiple opportunities, but up to 2 additional retakes of the ACT.
They always seem to improve somewhat. as they-
And we've got some, I can share some of that with you, some of their studies that when kids do retake, how much they increase. They broke it down into levels of, if a student's initial score is like 15 to 18 or something, most of those gain at least a point. They kind of broke it down of how much kids gain, and some are gaining 2 and 3 points with the retake. And I can share that chart with you. They've been tracking it for a while. It would really, to parents, it's a big motivation. And may I say this tonight on television in front of everybody, there's 2 ways to get your scholarship money. One is Tennessee Promise, which only gets you 2 years. The other is to get a Hope Scholarship, which is a 4-year scholarship. with a 21 ACT. So don't worry as much about your GPA. Start thinking about what can I do to get the 21 ACT and get a 4-year scholarship for my child. That's the message. It's really hard. Everybody looks at GPA, and we need to look at how they can double their monies by getting the full hope.
It may be a student messenger go out to parents. On a
It's been
semi-
true for a long time, but it doesn't sink in really well. People are so concerned, but so take the right courses, study hard, and get a 21.
Maybe we could start some kind of inter-school program, call it Making 21 or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe we need to have a contest and come up with a
Maybe,
name
yeah,
for it.
maybe
There's
so.
something to do.
Mr. Jordan, does it bother your grandson to mention him pitching a complete game and getting 11 strikeouts and pitching the side out in the final inning? Does that bother him for that to be?
Well, if it does, it's too late, isn't it?
Thought you a little grandfather pride tonight. I think he performed on his behalf. Mr. Estes.
I spoke with Mr. Holland at Holloway High School, I believe it was last Friday, and the Antique Automobile Club of Murfreesboro that meets at Cannonsburg is awarding a $2,000 scholarship to one of his students. And this all comes from him and his students fixing a car that's going to be entered in the Great American Race this summer that belongs to Central. So that's the great part about it. Every year they're going to have a $2,000 scholarship. Second thing is we've been invited to dinner. The bad thing is we have a board meeting that night. So it's at 6 p.m., so maybe we could have a quick board meeting.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Estes.
That's on May 3rd.
Yes, sir.
We sent that to Mr. Collins, sent it today to me and Mr. Evans too, so we'll get some publicity for that.
Just remind Ms. Joyce that's your desire. I'm sure she'll make that happen.
You can do anything.
Anybody else? Again, we'll be together tomorrow night, special call budget at 5, and then Thursday night for our regularly scheduled board meeting. You don't have anything else? We stand adjourned.